Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, I'm going to be planting my tomato plants. I grow mostly grape and cherry tomatoes. I buy slicing tomatoes if I want slicing tomatoes, but I tend to like these on salads. They're just kind of, in general, easier to grow for any kind of home gardener, really. I grow them on these cattle panels, so that they vine through. It's a great support. I've used these in the past at my old house, and then I've used all kinds of tying techniques and every kind of vining tomato technique that that I've read about or seen, and I've come back around to using the cattle panels. They're just great support. It's easy to do. As long as you're staying on top of it, you can just continue to feed the vines through these metal panels. And again, they're just rigid and they last years and years. I've also got my pepper plants that I did in the house going in the ground this week as well. I've got some basil going in. I've got some dill. I'm doing some of my direct seeding this week. That would be cucumbers, pole beans. I hold off on my lima beans and I hold off on my okra because they like the soil temperature a little warmer. And so they like the soil temperature to be around 70 degrees. I'm probably a week or two away from that. My soil temperature at this point is about 61. I'll link a website down below from Syngenta that allows you to see what your current soil temperature is. Tomatoes and peppers and the dahlias that I planted yesterday all prefer the soil temperature to be up around 60 and no frost coming, which is also important. I'm well past what I think will be my last frost, and again, soil temperature 60 degrees. I've got a netting going around my garden space for rabbit prevention, to prevent them from getting in. So I'm gonna have to climb over this to start planting some of these tomatoes. I'm gonna give you a quick tour of my cool season vegetables real quick and show you how great they look right now. So cool season vegetables, this has been mixed greens in this area. Some of them I'm allowing to come to seed at this point, and I will collect the seed or let the birds get it. Haven't decided, but there's lots of different mixed greens that I grew in that space. And then coming over, I've got some peas that are just starting to take off at this point. I'll feed them up through this panel that they're on over the next couple of weeks. Lettuce has been absolutely fantastic. I've just had a good mild winter, and those have just been fantastic. Broccoli, I've got 285 degree days this week. I don't know what's going to happen with my broccoli this spring season. Last year I had great broccoli right now, but sometimes it gets hot too quick and shuts it down. So we'll see what happens. The plants look fantastic, so I'm very hopeful. Other lettuces looking good, and let me get around here and show you this kohlrabi. It's just perfect. Super easy to grow if you haven't grown it before. There's the plants down there, and you can see, how it's forming down at the bottom. It's just a super easy vegetable to grow, really. And my potatoes are all up to the top of the bags, and these will be harvested sometime in the early summer is when the foliage will burn back on those, and I'll show you what we've got in those bags. I was so focused on this kohlrabi right here that I forgot to show you the beets next to it. You can see them forming right here. I'm going to give them a couple more weeks and then pull them out. But these look absolutely fantastic. Again, just grown in compost and native soil. I managed to get into this space where the tomatoes are being planted. Typically the rabbits don't mess with the tomatoes, but as long as this lettuce is in this space out here, I'm going to leave this netting around it. As soon as that stuff comes out, the netting will be gone. It'll be much easier to get in and out of here. I'm doing 25 tomato plants. I did, I don't know, 60 or 70 from seed. I'll give some away. There's a variety called Bronze Torch, which was my favorite last year, and I'm going to put 10 of those plants in the ground. These starts look great. They always end up a little bit stretched, and so when I plant them, I will actually bury them down an extra 2 or 3 inches, and so the ground level will be about where my fingers are right there. So that's how they're going in the ground. Again, I added compost to this space just a few weeks ago, and so They should take off here pretty quick. Soil temperature's right. Days are warm. I'm just using a trowel to dig down. I've got drip irrigation running along here, so I'm definitely trying not to cut that. And I do 5 tomato plants on each of these spots. Again, burying that, you know, an extra couple inches into the ground. I skip 1, 2, go to the third one right there, and do the same thing again. Again, trying not to cut my irrigation while I do it. But this is pretty quick and easy. You can use a drill bit, a planting drill bit, to do this even quicker, much faster. I have this irrigation in here, which is preventing me from going and getting that drill bit, because I think I'd end up putting the drill bit through my irrigation line. But again, I'm skipping. That's 1, 2. This is about the center mark here on this. But again, I found it 5 for the width of this panel. 5 plants is the right number. And there you go. It's really just quick and easy. I will fertilize these with a garden tone. I've got some garden tone I'm going to use. I'm going to put 5 on this panel, 5 on this panel. And so they're planted in my wide space here. This is a narrower section in between here. This is basically for air movement. In the middle of that next section is where my next 10 will go. I do have a couple other climbing things. I've got some cucumbers, which I will direct seed this morning. And I'm going to show you that right now. And I've got some pole beans as well that also need something to climb on. So I'm going to jump over to that section for that. So I'm doing pole beans on these cattle panels as well. You can actually do these on poles and just do a few seeds around a pole or around some sort of teepee where you use 3. But I just plant these about 1 inch deep in a trench with something for it to climb on. Doesn't matter. It can be a chain link fence, it can be anything. And they're pretty easy as long as they're getting enough sun and enough water. You want to end up with these about 3 inches apart. And so again, this is about a 1 inch deep trench that I'm doing right there. And there's way more. Of course, I spilled some. There's way more in here than I need, but I put them in maybe 1.5 inches. And this is the way we did it as a kid. I just drop one about every 1.5 inches, sometimes 2. And when they come up, I'll thin them down to about 3 inches apart. And I've got an irrigation line that runs through here, and they just get covered over just like this. You can soak these overnight if you want to, and may get a little more germination, but the seeds are pretty inexpensive, and so I don't worry about. I just double up the seed and then thin them after. But that's it on beans. Really easy. This is a slicing cucumber called Bristol that I've grown before. It's a good one. Needs something to climb on. These can be started inside, or they can be direct seeded like I'm doing this morning. I only put these down about 1/2 inch, something like that. Cucumbers need adequate water, and I've actually got these down at kind of the low end of this vegetable garden. I have found that to be a good trick to make sure that they don't get too dry during the season. They ultimately need to be spaced about 5 or 6 inches apart. And again, I'll probably put them in here about 2.5 inches apart, and then I'll thin them afterward. I'll have cucumbers in 2 or 3 different places. I've got some pickling cucumbers I'm doing, and some slicers that I'm doing. So this cucumber is another thing you can come back later in the season and do a second crop on, because they tend, for me at least, to burn out in my summer pretty quickly. And I can come in mid-summer and do a second crop, and they grow so quickly. But I'll just tamp that down into place, water it in, and won't take long at all for those to germinate. So the seeding I did for peppers this year is I did a few different bell peppers and some jalapenos. I had good success out here with peppers last year, so I hope I do again. It gets plenty of sun in this space. These are not stretched at all, meaning they haven't, you know, sometimes if you do them too early, they end up this tall before you put them in, and I would plant them a little deeper. These are not, again, these are just not stretched at all, so I'm just gonna plant them at the depth. They got beautiful, really beautiful roots, but I'll just plant them even with the top of the soil. And again, I'm gonna fertilize all of these things. Next week I'll be putting in, or the week after, I'll put in my lima beans, okra, and I have more. I've got some bush cucumbers and a few other things that will go in that end where all that broccoli and everything is as it starts to burn off and come out. One of the main things I want to get, want people to get from this channel is all I did was, in this space, is I've put compost right over the existing soil. The very first time I tilled it, so if you go back and look very early on when I moved into this house, I did put, the first time I put compost down, I tilled it. Since then, I've just top dressed it with compost. When I just planted these tomatoes and those seeds over there, it gets mixed in as I go. I fertilize with an organic fertilizer. I do proper spacing. And so, you know, a lot of times you'll see me in a container or something, I'll crowd everything, just trying to get as many flowers as I can get out of something. In a vegetable garden, because of pest and because of disease, leaf-borne, you know, leaf spotting and just places for insects to hide, I do follow the guidelines for spacing my vegetables. So, easy for me to say, right? I do think good air movement is important. I'm trying to get a lot of food out of a small space, but I am leaving, you know, this middle space right here. I'm not planting another group of tomatoes right behind this one. They've got about 1.5 feet here for the air to move through. So keep that in mind. But at the end of the day, again, the main thing I want to get folks to get out of this is just compost, the native soil, a little organic fertilizer, and some seeds I started in the house, and some sun. And I'll of course have to water during the season, but it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It's the same thing with my my shrubs and my annuals and my perennials that are going in the ground out here. Over there, it's just compost and mulch and organic fertilizer, and that's it. And if I don't like something where it is, I pick it up and move it, or I get rid of it and grab something else. And those things are the things that are the permanent pieces in the ground are spaced pretty well. So again, I don't give room for insects and diseases to have a place to harbor themselves. Thank you guys for watching the channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell notification so you're alerted when I upload videos. And you can follow along with how these tomatoes cover these cattle panels in a hurry. Thanks for watching.